So the Fantastic Four, by their name, seems to be always four people, right? Not always, and not always these same four people. Many of you who don't read comics may not know how many other members of the Fantastic Four exist. And I don't just mean SheHulk, that's been adapted a couple times. There are a lot of people that have been on the Fantastic Four, and let's run them down and see if they have Marvel Legends figures that fit with the display. It's Morphin' Time! Hello, this is Soundout here, and today we're talking about the Fantastic Four and their team history through the lens of action figures. Because in this video, we're going to be going over all the members of the Fantastic Four and whether or not they have figures. Because obviously, Reed, Sue, Johnny, Ben, your 4-4, those all get toys. They've had multiple versions over multiple years and multiple toy lines. Marvel Legends, current Marvel Legends alone, I think has, we got 3 whole sets of them. You know, and there's going to be more in the future. These are always going to be the 4. The team will always reset to this point. And while modern comics haven't really taken advantage of it, the long-running history of the Fantastic Four has necessitated team switch-outs for different reasons and different storylines. It's not always these 4. Sometimes it's not even 4. They may go to 5 or 6 just for funsies. But the important part here is we're going to be focused on who are the other members of the Fantastic Four beyond the main 4. And for historical purposes, I will also talk about the main 4 and their figure releases in Marvel Legends, just to kind of give this, you know, not take the spotlight away from the 4 here, because obviously my favorite Marvel superhero team, we got to talk about the main 4. Now, this video, of course, will be going into all the details of when the characters joined, when they didn't, do the Marvel Legends match their appearances on the Fantastic Four, all that kind of nerdy stuff. And if you enjoy that type of video, hit the like button to let me know, let YouTube know that you enjoyed this so that more people get to see it, and hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, including more on the Fantastic Four. So let's get into it. We're going to start, of course, with the main 4. I want to talk about their most recent Marvel Legends, and let's go into every member of the Fantastic Four in Marvel Legends. Alright, so let's talk the main 4. So when it comes to the Fantastic Four in modern Marvel Legends, we're just going to stick with the modern stuff, keep it simple. The first ones we got were these Walgreens exclusives, because there was this whole deal that was existing for many years where the Fantastic Four and the X-Men characters were kind of banned from merchandise, and they weren't allowed to have certain comic rules because Disney was trying to strong-arm Fox away from their movie rights, which ultimately resulted in Disney just buying Fox for all it's worth. But the whole point being there was a period of time where you couldn't just throw Marvel Legends figures into the waves that were Fantastic Four X-Men based. They all got weird. Like X-Men waves had to be only X-Men. Fantastic Four ended up at Walgreens. It was a whole weird time. But they did Sue Storm with Herbie. Then they did Johnny Storm. Then they did Reed. And then they did Ben Grimm. And these are still my favorite set of Marvel Legends for the Fantastic Four, personally. They are based on the 2000s costumes with the black boots and the black gloves. They're kind of the Mark Waid-esque era. I do like this Flame on Johnny, but I actually like this one a little bit more, which is why in the intro you saw this one, because that's the one I typically use. But yeah, it's a pretty cool set of figures. I like the stretchy arms on Reed. We haven't really gotten that again until the MCU versions. Stay tuned for a future YouTube short on those. But the idea here is that they actually made stuff, and they made Herbie. And Herbie does count as a Fantastic Four member for the new Fantastic Four cartoon because he replaced Human Torch, as Johnny's rights were locked up with a TV pilot that never happened. So there was that. But, you know, technically Herbie is a member, but he's not like an official member. The next set we got was the Marvel Legacy era, which was the Dan Slott run, where they got the black with blue costumes, and we got the main 4 in that. They were in a wave, part of a Build-A-Figure wave with Super Skrull, which was pretty cool. Not my favorite looks, not my favorite figures. I do think my second favorite is this set. This was the Retro Card wave, which got us the kind of 90s-esque, late 80s, 90s-esque white-collared, white gloves. These are kind of the ones that the MCU really used as a basis, so they're kind of important for that. And this is a pretty good set of figures. There was some cool stuff like Reed having the lab coat. There was 2 versions of Sue and Johnny. I think it was, can't remember which was which, but one of the Johnnies and one of the Sues were exclusive to fan channel retailers. I think it was Invisible Sue and regular Johnny were the exclusives, and then Flame on Johnny and then regular Sue were retail. The regular Sue head is sort of infamous. This is the I say very infamous because I think, like, not a lot of people love this. I don't love this. Not my favorite head. I think, you know, by far my favorite Sue head is that one. But yeah, this was, I think the most recently available, and the most available because that wave got overstocked a whole lot. That was the most recent time we got the Fantastic Four. I'm sure we're going to get another set of them. I'm still, we'll talk about this later on what the future Foundation costumes, but there's plenty of costume options for the Fantastic Four. So if you don't have a set of them and you don't like any of the options out, I would say just wait a little bit and there probably will be another set. But that is not the same case for all of the other members of the Fantastic Four throughout its history. So I think let's get to the bulk of the video, which is who else has been on the team besides these four. All right, so we're going to start with some establishment rules. What am I looking at when I talk about who's a member of the Fantastic Four? First of all, they need to be acknowledged as a member of the team in story. So there may be some examples that appear on lists, Frankie Ray Nova, for example, but those are characters that never got officially mentioned as being part of the team. Secondly, they need to not just be there for one appearance. And thirdly, cases like these guys. So first of all, Fantastic Bagman is a fun joke within, Marvel that's continued forward. This is Spider-Man wearing a Fantastic Four uniform. He was not a part of the team at the time he was wearing this. The only reason he was wearing this and why he had a bag over his head is because he got rid of the symbiote costume and he needed to have a costume so that he could go home, and Reed gave him one of the Fantastic Four suits, and then Peter threw a bag over his head to keep his identity a secret. So, Fantastic Bagman, that is a fun, kind of gag thing. It's a one-time comic thing that was fun. He's not a member of the Fantastic Four, so he doesn't count. We will come back to Spider-Man. And then characters like Doc in here, and this just qualifies for everybody. The Fantastic Four helped him. He lived at the Baxter Building for a little bit. There's several characters like that. Those don't count either. If they weren't officially on the team, then they aren't in this video. So with that said, let's get on to the rest of the list. All right, so we're going to start with Crystal from the Inhuman royal family. Now, why was she the first new member of the Fantastic Four? Well, at the time, she was dating Johnny Storm, which is a pretty good way to get your foot into the door. And then the other thing is that Sue Storm had Franklin Richards, and she was on maternity leave after giving birth, and so they needed someone to kind of take Sue's place on the team. Crystal stepped up to that challenge. She joined the team in Fantastic Four number 81, left the team in issue 95. She would later rejoin the team again in issue 305 and leave in the Fantastic Four Annual 21, and that was during another period of time where there needed to be another member of the team, and she stepped back in. Now, we do, of course, have Crystal Marvel Legends. Took a very long time for us to get her in the Lockjaw 2-pack, and the only thing is we don't have the Fantastic Four uniform version for her because she did have a FF uniform, which would be nice to see as a variant of the character and another chance to get her back out again. But Crystal is, I think, one of the more prominent replacement members of the Fantastic Four, at least in the comics history-wise, for how long she served. Our next member is another Inhuman, Medusa, the queen of the royal family of Attilan for the Inhumans. She has been a villain on the Fantastic Four because she was part of the Frightful Four originally when she was brainwashed, and so she was an ally. Now, the reason why Medusa joined is that Sue left the team because Reed was being a bad husband, and so then they needed someone else on the team, and Medusa stepped up. Now, she did get a Fantastic Four uniform. It wasn't a blue uniform. It was kind of like her normal uniform, but with a 4 on it. But it would be nice to get a new Medusa because this old Walgreens exclusive is rough, old, and needs massive updating. We took so long to get Crystal that some of the older Inhumans figures kind of suck in comparison. Now, this was a pretty long stint. Actually, she was on the team longer than Crystal's first initial run because Medusa was on the team from 132 to 159, which in comic terms, that is 26 issues, which is over 2 years. And the fact that Medusa's not brought up more in conversations about the Fantastic Four and its other members is kind of crazy, considering how long she was a part of the team. Next up, Luke Cage. Now, he had a pretty significant storyline as part of the Fantastic Four. So, during a confrontation with the Hulk, Ben lost his powers. The radiation, sapped his thingness away. So Ben was just normal Ben. Reed was working on a secret project in the background where Ben would have a robot suit to still be the Thing. But in the meantime, they hired Luke Cage to be part of the team. So he was there from Fantastic Four 168 to 170. There was a storyline where he, had to fight the Puppet Master and stuff. And so he was part of the team. Reed did straight up hire him because Luke Cage was a hero for hire. It's like, you paid him, get on the team, and that's how it worked out. He was only there for a couple issues, so he did not get a Fantastic Four uniform, which means this figure of Luke Cage in his classic look is totally going to work for his appearance on the Fantastic Four, which is pretty awesome. This would not be the last time that Ben Grimm would be replaced on the team by a heavier weighted character who has super strength. And of course, by that I mean She-Hulk. Now, Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk is, I think, the most prominent replacement member of the Fantastic Four, and I directly account this to the Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes cartoon, because they actually did that storyline for an episode, which was really awesome. And so I think that it just immediately has more pop culture relevance outside of comics. It also was a pretty long run on the team. I think she probably had the longest run of a temporary member. She joined the Fantastic Four in issue 265 and left in 300, later rejoining in Fantastic Four Volume 6, number 40, which would be a legacy numbering of 685, and then leaving again in 46, which is legacy numbering 691. That was during the Reckoning War storyline. Now, the reason why Jen joined the team was because Ben left the team after the events of Secret Wars. So everyone came back from Secret Wars, and Ben decided to go his own way for a while. And so She-Hulk stepped up to be part of the team, leaving the Avengers to go join the Fantastic Four. She, of course, got her own Fantastic Four uniform, and Marvel does have a Marvel Legends figure of her in that uniform coming out. It's kind of taking a lot longer than usual with Marvel Legends. Like, sometimes things just come out as soon as they get announced, it feels. But we are still waiting on that figure from my pre-order, at least. And so that is pretty awesome that we are getting a Fantastic Four uniform version of She-Hulk, because we should do that with every time we have a She-Hulk mold, but it finally took till this. I think there was one other, a long, long time ago. So nice to see, for sure. This is definitely, I think, out of all of them, longest running, most iconic. Kind of makes the most sense, and I do like it. I do like that She-Hulk joins the team, because if you may have noticed, we had other women on the team, Crystal and Medusa, but they were both replacing Sue. So there was always only just one woman on the Fantastic Four. But in this case, the team lineup was Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Jen, and so we had 2 women on the team, which was awesome. It should happen more often. All right, now our next one is one we don't have a Marvel Legends figure for, and that is Sharon Ventura. She had 2 identities while being part of the Fantastic Four. First as Miss Marvel, and then later as She-Thing. Now, this is a complicated character that has a lot of backstory, but basically, Ben Grimm met her while he was doing wrestling, when he was away from the team, and She-Hulk was part of the team. And so he met her there, and Sharon ended up becoming a member of the Fantastic Four. Now, sometimes she would join as a replacement, and then other times there was 5 members of the Fantastic Four, and Sharon was part of that. She had a pretty long run. She joined the Fantastic Four in 306 and left in issue 354. And it would be really nice to see a figure of her, because I don't think she's ever had one. Her Miss Marvel identity is sort of lesser known, and it did have a shorter stint. The She-Thing storyline is definitely more what I think they would make a figure of. It'd be really great to see, because she was on the book for a long time, and even beyond her time as a team member, she's a supporting character throughout a lot of the Fantastic Four history of that era, and does appear later on. So I think it'd be nice to see this character brought to Marvel Legends. So next to She-Hulk, the most famous example of a replacement Fantastic Four is the new Fantastic Four. Now, these are not official Fantastic Four members. They did not replace anybody on the team. The new Fantastic Four was essentially an emergency plan in case the Fantastic Four were disposed. The Fantastic Four were apparently gone, or they're dead, so guess what? A new team steps up. And it was the most 90s team possible. We got SpiderMan, we got Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, we got Logan Wolverine, and we've got Grey-Hulk. It was like the best sellers of the 90s coming together for a team-up. And it's been homaged several times since, but only 2 times has been officially the Fantastic Four, the new Fantastic Four, so we're going to go with only the official times, because they've done, homages to this. There was a storyline with Agent Venom that was very similar to this. But point being, this was for 3 issues. It was Fantastic Four 347 to 349. They were not officially inducted into the Fantastic Four. They didn't get uniforms. They were just a temporary team. They've even gone back and done one-shots and miniseries that take place shortly after this, and it's here's the team teaming up again. But this was a pretty iconic moment for a lot of reasons, and I think it was because they capitalized on the hype in the 90s. Now, in terms of toys, we did get the Maximum Spider-Man, which is very 90s. We got our Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. We could use a Grey-Hulk that's more 90s inspired. I just used the most recent one. And this is the Days of Future Past Wolverine with one of the cowboy hat Logan heads on it, because we don't actually have a 90s Wolverine in the jacket, because he wasn't really Wolverine in this storyline, he was more just Logan. So it's one of those things. But in general, this was a pretty cool storyline, one of my favorites. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. But they aren't officially Fantastic Four members. They're an emergency backup squad, which is a concept we'll revisit again a couple more times. Our next member is Scott Lang, AntMan. Now, Scott Lang was actually, it's kind of an interesting story, because a lot of times when we see replacement Fantastic Four members, they've replaced Sue, Ben, or Johnny, but this is the one time that someone replaced Reed. Reed was apparently dead. He wasn't. He got better. And so Scott Lang stepped up to kind of be the science guy on the team, essentially. He kind of filled the science role. And he was in the Fantastic Four from issue 384 to 408, which is pretty lengthy. That's a 44-issue run, which is comparable to She-Hulk, comparable to Miss Marvel / She-Thing. That is a pretty long run, and nobody seems to ever talk about that Scott Lang was on the Fantastic Four. This was not his only time on the Fantastic Four. We'll get to that in a little bit. But this was essentially supposed to be just kind of like a Reed's out of the picture. Let's put a new science guy in, and I think it's a pretty cool idea. This was, of course, some 90s shenanigans, but it was pretty cool 90s shenanigans. Our next team member is another one that doesn't have a Marvel Legends figure. This is Lijah. Lijah is a Skrull. There's a lot of complicated, messy history with her that I'm not going to get into here. Good melodrama. She was joining the Fantastic Four in issue 403 and left in 408. And the reason why she joined was because Johnny left to go join Fantastic Force. Now, Fantastic Force is a completely separate team with its own little history. We're not talking about Fantastic Force today. But Lijah did join the main Fantastic Four in Johnny's spot, and it was a temporary thing that existed just for a few issues, but it is significant enough that I thought it would be mentioned. And Lijah is an important enough character that I think she should get a Marvel Legends figure regardless. She didn't have a Fantastic Four uniform, so it would be a one-size-fit-all costume choice, I think, but pretty cool character if we could get a figure of her. Moving into the 2000s, we have Johnny's ad hoc Fantastic Four. So this was another temporary team. Three of the members of Fantastic Four, being Reed, Sue, and Ben, were trapped in the negative zone, and so Johnny had to make a new Fantastic Four team on the fly. So he called in returning members She-Hulk and Scott Lang, AntMan, and he called in Neymarita. Now, we do have a Neymarita Marvel Legends figure, but it is the post-Civil War blue-skinned version, more modern take on her. We need a more classic one to fit this one-shot team. This only lasted for like 3 issues. Fantastic Four Volume 3, Issue 42, also known as 471, and they disbanded in 44, 473. It was another temporary, we need an emergency team kind of situation, but it would be nice to get a Neymarita in the more early 2000s or late 90s kind of look. Would be great to kind of finish out this team, because otherwise we have it pretty much covered. If not the exact costumes, we at least have the members, which is pretty cool for another little temporary emergency team. Now, for the most part, the Fantastic Four lineup has not shifted too much in the 2000s onward. However, we did get Storm and Black Panther joining the team for a time when Reed and Sue left to work on their marriage. It was post-Civil War, they had to work some stuff out, talk about some things, and so they leave the team for a bit, and Storm and Black Panther step up to be kind of the new power couple on the Fantastic Four alongside Ben and Johnny. So this started in Fantastic Four 544, and they left in 550. It was pretty much just one story arc, one trade paperback's worth. But it was pretty cool. They didn't get their own unique uniforms. Costume-wise, though, this Black Panther has, very few changes, but, we kind of have a lot of Black Panthers that qualify. For Storm, she's lacking in the modern costumes. We get a lot of her 90s look. We've gotten, one of her 70s look and one of her 80s look. We've not gotten many of the 2000s look. This is the only one that's modern, and this was after the time she was on the Fantastic Four, but I just put it in because I was like, well, it's the closest we can get. So we always need more Storms, we always need more Black Panthers, and eventually we'll get the versions that kind of fit that post-Civil War era that they were joined on the Fantastic Four. It's pretty awesome. It was an unconventional choice, and I really liked it because I think the team dynamic worked great. It was like, all right, we had a power couple leave, let's bring a power couple in, and it worked out pretty good. And everything's come back around to Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Now, he did officially join the Fantastic Four in FF issue 1, which is legacy numbered 589, and he left in Fantastic Four 604. During that time, Johnny Storm was presumed dead, and Peter stepped up into his friend's role. Now, the interesting part here is I have classic Spider-Man here. This was during the era where the Fantastic Four went from being the Fantastic Four to the Future Foundation. And the Fantastic Four were like a team leading this foundation of new and upcoming scientists. They all had matching costumes, of which Peter got a matching costume. They even had stealth versions of their costumes, which was really awesome. Now, when it comes to Peter Parker's figures, there was an old Future Foundation Spider-Man and a more modern stealth suit one, but we've never gotten Reed, Sue, and Ben in Future Foundation costumes, so I've never picked up those Spider-Mans. If you have the Spider-Man variant and he goes with something else, I want the other thing too. The other thing too, as well, is that when Johnny came back and joined the team, he had a Future Foundation costume as well, so that could be a whole wave at that point. But, you know, Spider-Man was part of the team officially, not just part of New Fantastic Four stuff, and that was during that time where Johnny was gone. So the Fantastic Four announced they're going into space. They pull together a nice team that will protect Earth while they're gone, and Reed promises they'll only have to be the Fantastic Four for 4 minutes. Unfortunately, the time displacement thing that Reed had meant they were gone a lot longer, and Scott Lang AntMan had to deal with the fact that he had a dysfunctional team that now has to lead a bunch of children. And that is FF. Now, FF was the Volume 2 version. Matt Fraction was the writer on both these runs. And the Fantastic Four comic followed the main four in space, and FF followed the dysfunctional team that was left behind. So we have Scott Lang AntMan, we have SheHulk, and we have Medusa. And then a new addition to the team, which was Darla Deering as Miss Thing. And her thing was that she could actually have a robot suit, kind of like how Ben used to have the robot suit. I think it was the same robot suit. And so she could get in the suit and be the Thing. And the fun part, too, is they actually brought in the Thing Rings Do Your Thing bit from the Hanna-Barbera Thing cartoon. And so she could activate those in a similar way and get her bodysuit. Obviously, by the image of there's only 3 figures here, there is no Miss Thing figure, which is a bummer, because Darla Deering is great in this run, and I would love to see a figure of her. We also don't have the She-Hulk, Medusa, and Ant-Man in their Fantastic Four uniforms for the FF run, which actually would make a great box set, honestly. You could throw all 4 of them together. That would make a great set, because I don't really feel like you need to sell them separately, but I think together would sell pretty good. Going on with that, this team was short-lived, but did last quite a bit. They were in Fantastic Four Volume 2, Issue 2, Legacy numbered 613, and then they disbanded in FF Volume 2, Issue 16, because that was basically, they were just there for that run. You know, Reed and friends came back, and they're like, you can go now. And everyone's like, we processed our trauma, we can move on with our life. Great times. Really enjoyed that run. Really enjoyed the little dysfunctional team we had here. Our next temporary team members were not given Marvel Legends, even though they had a cartoon. It's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. So for a 3-issue arc in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, issues 27 to 29, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur join up with Ben and Johnny to make a new Fantastic Four. That was called Fantastic 3 because Devil Dinosaur, as smart as he might be, I don't know if he counts as a 4th member, but it was during the Fantastic 3 arc of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. So Lunella basically forced Ben and Johnny to be part of the team because at the time, Reed and Sue were off exploring the multiverse. This was post-Secret Wars, and so there wasn't a Fantastic Four. And so Lunella was like, let's make a Fantastic Four, and that's how we got the Fantastic 3. Now, there wasn't a specific uniform for this, for Moon Girl at least. She just wore a emblem on her chest. So it would be nice to see Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur in Marvel Legends regardless, but it would also finish a team almost immediately when it comes to the Fantastic Four rosters. It's time for the new Fantastic Four again, and this time they have matching costumes. So, during the Empire event, Franklin Richards and Valeria Richards, Reed and Sue's kids, they were left on Earth to kind of deal with things on Yancey Street, worrying about the people of Earth, while the rest of the Fantastic Four are off in space, dealing with the plant people and the Kree Skull Empire stuff. There was a lot going on in Empire, but the tie-ins to Empire and the Fantastic Four issues, which would be Fantastic Four Volume 6, 22, to 24, which was essentially just like a nice little story arc. This was the new Fantastic Four. What was set up is that Reed had a computer system that Franklin and Valeria could use to summon other members of the Fantastic Four that had been in the past, give them an emergency signal to come help out. And so Peter Parker Spider-Man, Logan Wolverine, those were the 2 that showed up. They got suited up and they joined the team with, of course, Powerhouse and Brainstorm. So this was just kind of a temporary team, just like the previous New Fantastic Four had been. We actually got figures of them, which I think is great. It was great that we got Franklin and Valeria in their costumes, because while they're not official members of the Fantastic Four, they were wearing these suits a lot. And so that's how we finally got like action figures of them. And then they did the 2-pack of Wolverine and SpiderMan, because it was, just repaintville. And I was really glad they did, because it kind of pulls us all together. Now, there was, if you look at some comic covers, you think that Ghost Rider and Hulk also came back, but that was actually a different situation involving some shapeshifters. So on that, we do have the complete team as it was for that like 3-issue arc, and it was a good time, represented in nice plastic form. And then our last temporary member of the Fantastic Four for the video, and pretty much for Marvel history at this point, is Jack of Hearts. He joined in Fantastic Four Volume 640 and left in 46. That is because Jack of Hearts was there for the Reckoning War, same as She-Hulk. He didn't have his own specific uniform. He's never had a Marvel Legends figure. Jack of Hearts is a weird character. He existed as an Avengers character. He's been part of other things. He joined the Fantastic Four for a short time. And there was a period of time where he was showing up in like every comic I was reading. He was in Fantastic Four. He was in She-Hulk. He was in Silver Surfer Rebirth. Like, I was like, why is Jack of Hearts everywhere? Is he getting MCU synergied in? And we've seen nothing of him. Not even a Marvel Legends figure. Even though I'd really like one now, because now that they put him into all the books I was reading, I'm like, oh, I actually kind of like the character and would enjoy an action figure of him. Since then, we have not seen any new temporary members of the Fantastic Four. The Ryan North run on the characters has pretty much kept to the main four, so we'll see what happens next. You'll never know when someone's going to get swapped out for a new member for a period of time, and I don't think we're ever going to see 45 issues of a team swap out at this point, because they, all these others, if you notice, from the 2000s onward have been 2 or 3 issues. For, I think Black Panther and Storm got like 6 issues. Spider-Man got pretty good, like 15 issues. That's the most we're ever seeing, just because of the way that marketing is now. But I would like to see somebody else switch up the team, just for fun. Just for fun, even for just a couple issues. It's a cool thing that the Fantastic Four can do, that other superhero teams do, but it always feels more special when it happens to the Fantastic Four, because those main four are such a tight-knit group. It's kind of a surprise when someone comes in for a temporary stint. All things considered, we've done pretty good on getting Fantastic Four members in Marvel Legends, excluding costume variations, obviously. The only ones we don't have figures of at all is She-Thing, Miss-Thing, Moon Girl, Lijah, and Jack of Hearts. That's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Like, the fact there's only 5 that we don't have figures of is pretty impressive. Everything else is well covered. Now, of course, costume variations would be a nice thing to get. Part of me wants to get Neymarita just because I did not remember the ad hoc Fantastic Four thing Johnny did. I don't know if I kind of want the classic Neymarita. That's why I didn't get the modern one. Well, when they make a classic one, I'm sure they will. It'll hopefully join the lineup. But anyways, that was kind of a fun little trip down memory lane, and also kind of a nice recap of the Fantastic Four's roster history. Like I said, I left out any one-shots or any kind of weird ones. Someone's going to comment Iceman. I just don't count that. If they weren't officially part of the team, they didn't end up in the list. But there you go. That is the Marvel Legends history of the Fantastic Four roster. So if you enjoyed this video and didn't already, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe and notification bell, really appreciate that. Leave any comments down below, tell me if I missed anything, correct me, ask questions. If there's a character you think should have been in it, let me know, and if I thought of it and had a reason I didn't include them, I will let you know what that reason is. Also, if you want to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. You can join as a channel member, get perks like early access to videos. Let's give some special shout-outs to our channel members. Special shout-out to our channel member Captain Tiers, Spin-54, MasterBin95, Forever1000, Super Shaddix Boom, Mr. Smelly Potato, Jamie's World, Jamie Harper, Mars the Star Droid, Patty, Common Spidey, Liam Peterson, Common Jojo, Mohammed Dap, Josh Frisch, K-Floss, Gokai Gamer, Michael, Koopaman, Doge9789, LFIV, and Matcha's Den. Thank you to members and viewers alike for your support of this channel. You can also find me on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12, and you can find my awesome graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. Plus, you can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for entertainment, news, and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.